I don't believe that there's a such thing as too fast of scaling, as long as you can maintain the same scale with your team, with your resources, with the tools that you're using. You want to grow, you want to move quickly, you want to take over the world.
Welcome to Behind the Franchise, the podcast that brings you behind the scenes with the most successful franchise marketers. I'm your host, Paul Ehlinger. On each episode, we'll be diving deep with the people who have cracked the code on franchise growth so you can learn their secrets to building a standout brand. In the show's first episode, I sit down with Jessica Yarmey, the marketer behind some of the hottest fitness franchises in the game. She's sharing her hard won wisdom on how to brand better, grow faster, and scale smarter as a franchise marketer. So, sit back, relax, and let's go behind the franchise. Hey everyone, thanks for listening today. Joining me is Jessica Yarmey from SizzleSociety. Awesome background and also just one of the most authentic people I've had the pleasure of meeting in the last maybe 6 months. And so Jessica, maybe get us started, give us the highlights of your background.
Well, thank you so much for that intro. Authenticity is everything. So that is such a nice compliment. I appreciate that. My background is in marketing. I was a lifelong marketer turned entrepreneur, but my passion, my sweet spot, my wheelhouse is all things marketing, brand building, and promoting and protecting some of the biggest brands in the world and also building some of the now smallest brands in the world and getting into that entrepreneurial space and really leading into the entrepreneurial space via marketing.
Yeah, I love that. And it wasn't scheduled. First time in your life, you were like, yes, I love marketing. Were you like born this way? This is what you always wanted?
This is definitely an example of did never decided to pivot. Started in marketing, loved it. I remember being 8 or 9 years old and watching TV with my grandparents, and I knew every single commercial. I knew them, memorized them. I really cared about advertising from a very early age.
Yeah.
And then my brain is a mix of art and science, and I think that's where marketing sits is in between those two methods. And so it really just fit naturally, and I guess I'm lucky in that sense that I identified that really early and just really built not only through college but like then built my whole career in the marketing lane.
Yeah, that is super awesome. And I think it's also like vocational, right? You've just loved something, so you care about it enough to keep trying and getting better and better and better. That's super, super cool. And you touched on it a little bit, the mix between working with some of the largest brands in the world down to the baby brands that are just getting started. And I think I want to focus most of the conversation around that, right? And really understanding similarities, differences, what you wish you could have done with big brands that you can do with small brands, and maybe vice versa there. And actually had an audience member tee up a question. So Jeremy Miller, shout out, he hosts a podcast called Beyond UX Design. He said, how do you prevent yourself from scaling too fast? So with Club Pilates, obviously you took it from 200 to over 600 locations. Maybe that's the question we kicked that off with. Like, what was too fast? I'm sure it was scary. What did you try to avoid along the way?
That's a great question from Jeremy. And I'm going to say he sent me a trick question because I don't believe that there's a such thing as too fast of
I love
scaling, as long as you can maintain the same scale with your team, with your resources, with the tools that you're using. You want to grow, you want to move quickly, you want to take over the world, dive
that.
in, grow this thing as big and as fast as possible. Where people miss is they disconnect the growth from the growth of the team or from the growth of the resources, and the two things really need to grow in parallel.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And I think you actually, I was going to tee it up, but you said it earlier, kind of the difference between protecting and promoting. Maybe you can highlight that where it's like, obviously Club Pilates, very large name. And it was a big name kind of when you got there as well, right? So you're not coming in and inventing it. How did you balance that? Because I think that's where you start getting into that, hey, maybe we could open 500 stores this year, but if we do that, we know 200 of them will fall off in the next 12 months or something like that. What does that look like?
Yeah, I think the process of promoting and protecting brands really starts from knowing what your brand is and defining what your brand is. What are
Yeah.
we promoting? What are we protecting? So I always start in a brand values, in a mission statement, in a vision statement. And when I started at Club Pilates, I was a brand new CMO. I made a jump from director to CMO. And I walk in and I'm looking at their values, and I said to a team member, I'm like, this doesn't line up with what I see from you guys from the outside looking in. And I'm kind of scared. I'm timid as a new CMO. And
First
I'm
day
like,
on the job, let's change everything.
yeah, like, are you okay with me changing these? And they were like, absolutely. Like, we need to build it correctly. So it was a reset moment of define the brand values, get everything correctly positioned. 200 locations already open. I added manifesto language. Like, let's get everyone aligned around who we are and what we stand for. And
Yeah.
then you have to constantly be building content assets, articles, emails that ladder up to those brand values, that ladder up to your brand positioning. And that's really what we did well at Club Pilates, is not every day reinventing the wheel, but every day reinforcing what those brand values were, what the brand positioning was. And that's really what creates a strong brand, is the repetition.
Yeah, interesting. I love that language around a manifesto. How did you go about getting buy-in from hundreds of very unique people and franchisees and thought processes with this new manifesto language? I think love to hear it too. Like I suffer imposter syndrome every day, right? Like new CMO, first time CMO, and then trying to implement all this new language. How did that go? Like what?
I was once told that I was a copywriter in a past life. And so the one thing that I do feel confident in is my ability to put words around brands.
Yeah.
And as I'm building brands, I think a lot of small brands come up with one logo and one color and a few words, and that's their brand.
Mm-hmm.
And real strong brands have so many layers to them. If you
Yeah.
think about a logo, 18 different iterations of a logo. There's usually a tagline. There's maybe campaign language that goes along with the different campaigns. So there's
Yeah.
so many different aspects of brand building. But in a franchise environment, you're right that the most important part of brand building is the buy-in along the way.
Yeah.
And I am, as you mentioned earlier, I'm very authentic with how I communicate and very direct oftentimes about where we are with certain things. And I'm very clear with my franchise owners where I need their input and where I want to collaborate with them. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm also very clear with, we have reached an end point. This is what it is going forward. And
Yeah.
it's not going to be something we revisit. It's more so going to be something that we repeat. We hit
Yeah.
that repetition place. And I think you can get into analysis paralysis. You can get into over collaboration where you're never going to have everyone feeling 100% great about what you're doing, or where you're moving the brand. But my approach has always been collaborate and then clearly communicate the
Mm-hmm.
why and the goal of what are we trying to do with this manifesto? What are we trying to do with this campaign? What are we trying to do with even this flash sale? Like, let's
Right.
go in with a goal, with a why, and and with authenticity communicate where it could all go wrong, but let's communicate also what we expect to see as a result, and having that cadence of collaboration, then communicating the why, the goal, and then circling back and showing here's what happened as a result. And that is marketing in a nutshell. And
Yeah.
just constantly throughout the calendar repeating that same cycle of working with your franchise owners.
No, I love that, and I think so. I hold a very similar ideology to you around scaling fast. It's actually so KSF. It's an internal acronym we use that's just keep scaling faster,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's coincidental. Calling out some stats from Club Pilates that I just thought were crazy. 2018 at 220 stores, 33 new leads a month per studio. 2019 you had 180 stores and you increased same store AUV by 17%. Those are crazy fast numbers. Those are awesome numbers, right?
Yeah.
But knowing your ideology, what would you have told yourself now that would have doubled those numbers, right? What lessons did you learn along the way that those are massive numbers, but what would you have done to make them even better?
I would say testing in small but fast increments. And then as soon as you see something click,
Yeah.
don't just double down on it, triple down on it, quadruple down on it. Play it as long as you can play it. And sometimes as marketers, we feel like we need to do everything to be everywhere. If you use social media as an example, there's so many different platforms you have to be aware of and micromanage. Let's just focus on what's working. Let's
Yeah.
focus on the dollars we can directly connect to lead volume. Let's directly focus on things that are driving to the bottom line. And especially when you're in a situation where resources are limited,
Perfect.
sometimes you stretch your resources across too many different things and it all becomes ineffective. It all becomes muddy. So, to answer your question, I would say test in a lot of different places and test in the mud. But then, as soon as something becomes clear, as soon as you can direct connect dollars in to dollars out, triple down.
Yeah, see when it stops being efficient, right?
Yeah.
No, I love that, and you bring up social. I think it's a great spot where the channels are so different, right? And they have very different audiences on them. And I just saw Orange Theory stop posting on Twitter. They got 70,000 followers on there. They posted once this year.
Yeah.
Did you see strengths with certain platforms at Club Pilates, or did you guys focus in on or Instagram or Facebook, kind of with the demographic you were going after?
I believe brand is built on Instagram. You could just
Yeah.
cover so much ground with images and with visuals, and it is such an audience that skews to connecting with brands via images and visuals.
Mhm.
We did a lot in Facebook with lead generation. I think probably still to this day, Facebook offers the greatest bang for the buck and also clarity of bang for the buck. I think other platforms are getting there in terms of driving real volume, real results. But if you look at like a TikTok, if you're not good at it, it's not going to drive volume or clarity of results. Again, as marketers, maybe even as franchise owners, you have a tendency to want to be everywhere. And the moment a franchise owner opens up a Twitter, my first question is, do you have a person who's going to be on that platform, not just posting 30 times a day,
Bonding
but
all day.
answering 30 direct messages a day. You're in your mind, you're opening up a channel that's going to build brand and going to drive leads. The actuality is you're opening up a customer service channel. So are you ready to man that customer service channel? There's zero reason why there should be local Twitter accounts in any franchise.
Yeah.
Please, if someone's listening and you disagree, please show me an example where it works. I
Yeah.
think there are brands holding down Twitter nationally well, but it still is such a platform that's a high lift platform. You and I connected because of LinkedIn. The whole reason I love LinkedIn is you can be low lift and still impactful on that platform.
No, I absolutely agree. I love that take that not a single franchisee should have a Twitter. I mean, I think it's a platform that like the random owner loves because they can pull it on their phone. They probably scroll it and they see it. They just do not realize the amount of effort that goes into a very effective Twitter account.
And it's absolutely a customer service nightmare. If you're not able to respond, even a Facebook message needs to be responded to in under 24 hours. On Twitter, it's faster. On X, it's faster. It needs to be within an hour. Somebody is expecting a response. So the expectations when you have a brand on Twitter are so high. It needs to be a full-time person
Yeah.
managing it. And most concepts, let alone franchise owners, don't have a dedicated full-time resource for X.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on with that. Maybe going on from here, still with Club Pilates, like so. Again, your SizzleSociety page is awesome. The content you guys build around that is awesome because it's just so bold in you. Like anytime I see it, I'm just like, yeah, it's Jessica. Of course, this is fantastic. I would have to guess you were limited in some way to kind of the maybe the immense creativity or like the outlandishness or the loudness of some of it with such a big brand. Did you ever experience that there? And if so, maybe how did you push back, still imbue the personality you wanted in there?
We worked with in house creative,
Mm-hmm.
and I would hire people and tell them, your job here is not to be creative. Your job here is to reinforce the brand that exists.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, as creative people, creative individuals, you want to constantly be new. You want to constantly be evolving. You want to you just want to be edgy and like different every week.
Yeah.
And the reality is when you're brand building, especially when you start with a local footprint or you start with a regional footprint, the whole game is to pick a lane and live there, repeat it and own it, and then build from that core. But if you don't have a core established, and you've worked with so many brands, you've seen this, it becomes fragmented land. Who are we? What do we stand for? You're nowhere. So the best brands just pick a place and sit there with creative boredom for
Yeah.
years.
Yep. Yeah, it's why I never even consider myself a marketer, because the thing I'm so bad at is knowing it takes like 6 to 10 touch points, right? And just finding the 10 different ways to say that thing. Like, to me, it's such a struggle. It's why we build what we build. It's why I love people like you, because you can and you know the value of it. But no, it is absolutely interesting. So maybe moving from that then, and going the full 180, where you've got this massive thing, it's defined, we have to protect it, to Kickhouse. You're
Mm-hmm.
starting your own thing, first time CEO, I believe, role for you, right?
Yeah.
And then how's it different? How's the brand different? You start off and you get to build from zero, as opposed to, I'm sure they had a ton of brand built when you got to Club Pilates.
Yeah, it was less of a refresh project than it was a build from scratch project.
Yeah.
And it's intimidating to build in a vacuum. And I think that was one thing that I had a luxury of at Club Pilates. I was never in a vacuum, for
Yeah.
better or for worse. Franchise owners were always telling me what they liked and didn't like. So I
Yeah.
always had a feedback loop, and I used that feedback loop. Maybe not even realizing I used it as much as I did
Sure.
until I got out of the feedback loop and I'm looking around.
You're like, is
What do
anybody
we think about
there?
this?
Yeah.
Yeah, do we like this? Is this bad? Is this? And so when you're naming something from scratch, also, it's like the first time you're listening to a record album.
Yeah.
You kind of don't know if it's good yet. And some of the goodness comes from the repetition, and it comes from the pieces that you build around the brand. So I will tell you, I named Kickhouse. It was not the first name that I chose. We
I was
hit
going to
some
ask you
trade
this because you couldn't find the domain and the Facebook name for the one you picked, right?
Yeah, we had trademark issues, and it's hard to name a business because you do have to check all of those boxes. You have to check trademarks, you have to check Facebooks, you have to check Instagrams, and I just told you I believe Instagram is a brand building location.
Yeah.
So you need a good Instagram location. And in my businesses now, I was naming them, and I remember being on a flight back from a vendor partner, and I'm on the airplane with Sam, who's my co-founder, and my son went out for this meeting too. And I said to Sam, I was like, could we do this with a .io, or I think it was a .io that we were looking at. And my son, who's 13, looks at me and he's like, no, mom, you need the .com. I'm like, I know, I need the .com.
The
So
reminder you
yeah,
need it.
but there's so many things that you need. And one of the biggest needs is it needs space to grow. It needs
Yeah.
time to evolve. It needs time to be out in the consumer's mind to almost become a thing. So I named Kickhouse, and I created a tagline, and I didn't know if it was going to be good. It wasn't like I looked at it and was like, that's killer. It was like I looked at it and I was like, I could build that.
I can do this. Yeah.
And then it becomes, you build it. So yeah, you have a logo, yeah, you have a tagline, but now what? And that's really where the magic happens, is the now what. And I think at Kickhouse we did an amazing job with the now what.
Hey, we can build.
Yeah, I've been lucky to be in fitness, in leadership positions in male dominated spaces, because simply showing up as a woman leader who
Yeah.
is running brands is its own unique perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about imposter syndrome, and I felt that earlier in my career. And it really was when I got to Club Pilates and I saw
Mm-hmm.
that I was working with a lot of men, and they were not thinking about or defining the consumer in the right way.
Yeah.
And I came in as basically the core consumer and was able to say, I know I would like this. So
Right.
you're able to, better represent who you're trying to market to. So if
Yeah.
you're thinking right person, right message, right time, I was the person. So
Yeah.
I was able to build the right messages and think about the right timing because I had that perspective. So going into Kick House in a kickboxing space in a martial arts broader modality, there
Right.
were not female
Very
centric
few. Yeah.
brands.
Yeah.
So simply being a woman was enough of a differentiator. Did we do other things like, really define brand values from day one? Yes. Define tagline from day one that was collaborative and community in nature? Yes, we did all of those things. Groundbreaking, boardroom discussion where we selected a niche. It was just, hey, we're, pardon my language, like we're badass females. Where
Yeah.
would we want to work out?
Yeah.
And we built that. And simply sitting in that, boutique fitness is largely 80% of boutique fitness, maybe 90% of boutique fitness is females. And so
Yeah.
simply sitting in a place where it was a female skewed brand with a female supported, support office,
Hmm.
was in and of itself the differentiator.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's super interesting. I think building for yourself is such an unlock because, to your point, right, there's not a lot of voices there in the beginning because you're shouting into this void, you're trying to get that feedback. And when you don't have that, the only thing you can count on is that weird little voice in your head that's like, no, this is definitely a thing. Like, it's so interesting hearing that. So obviously, resource limited much more when you're building a brand by yourself, super small team. Where did you try to really focus your resources on, that you probably cut some of the tactics out that you used at Club Pilates because, they didn't have enough of a feedback value?
Yeah, when I left Club Pilates, there was probably like an $8 million national media line, and to go from an $8 million national media line down to a $0 national
Yeah.
media line, and what do you do?
Right.
And we really intentionally churned out a lot of content,
Yep.
and it it is not, content is fun because it's not, it takes that mix of art and science. You cannot
Hmm.
simply hand a brand a playbook and say this is how you execute content. You have to first look at yourself with authenticity and say, what kind of content would I be good at creating? And even as a leader of the company, I created a ton of content for Kickhouse. I'm not a certified kickboxer, so you won't see me doing the exercise tutorial kind of videos.
Sure.
In fact, I was rarely like on the mat doing the exercises because I was terrible at it. But
Did you get
but
better as you progressed?
yes, but still, I am a desk life person, so
I
my
feel you.
shoulders are all like desk rounded, my hips are desk rounded, so none of it fits my physical
Yeah.
body shape.
Sure.
But the way that you create your culture can
Hmm.
either really enable creativity and can really enable content, or you as a leader can really create a culture that shuts down content. And I always wanted to have a culture because I had a $0 national budget. I always wanted a culture of, we're going to do whatever it takes, whatever we can bring to the table as individuals, we're going to put it on the table. And I think for me, I just felt an obligation to lead from the front and show how I saw the brand. And so I put a lot of like fun content out there. A lot
Hmm.
of fitness is, especially in martial arts, it's too stuffy, it's too intimidating.
Yeah.
And walking into a martial arts facility is even more intimidating than walking into a gym, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
they're all
we
trying to
just,
beat you up, right?
yeah, but so how do we fix that? Okay, let's just show the personality of it. Let's show the fun of it. Let's show the stress relief of it. And by me showing up in a way that I understand we need content, I understand we need creativity, I understand that we are fun, I understand that we are a brand that also is going to have that community aspect. So I'm going to prioritize social media.
Yeah.
Did I send a memo out to the whole team and say, every single person is mandated to create 3 pieces of content every week? Absolutely not. But those who were creators with me.
Yeah.
And they saw what I was doing, and it's an immediate green light to do the same.
Yeah.
Great. I'm going to be fun also. I'm going to put myself out there also. I'm going to put reels out there also. I'm going to film ridiculous TikToks, but it's going to make somebody laugh and it's going to show them that we're a cool and fun family to be a part of. And this is not at all scary.
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer in the power of content, but I'm also a big believer in the fact that not everyone is a content creator and not everyone is a content creator across all platforms.
I agree. I absolutely agree with that. I think for me, the unlock was LinkedIn, right? Where I started off as an engineer in my life, like very much so the standard. I was at a workbench all day, every day. People talking was not a thing I enjoyed by any stretch of the imagination. And I think what I loved about LinkedIn was people will just connect with you because you're interested in what they do. Like the amount of people I'm just like, whoa, I saw this. Like, how did you do that? Tell me about this. And they come and do it. But then I would never be on TikTok. I would feel like a fool on TikTok. You know what I mean? And so I think
Yeah.
you make such a good point there that first of all, not everybody's a content creator, but the people that are, they have their lanes, right? And just enabling people to go do that is so powerful in building an authentic brand. Like I think that's so fascinating, and we see that all the time too.
Well,
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
and then to layer onto that, as a brand marketer, you
Mm-hmm.
know who your LinkedIn creators are. You know who your TikTok creators are. You know who your Twitter creators are. At Kickhouse, I had a member who was huge on Twitter. She just
Interesting.
loved it. She was on it
Yeah.
all the time. So I was like, hey, I'm going to pay you $100 a month to run the Kickhouse Twitter. And she did. And she loved it. So
Yeah.
I think it's like right person, right role. And with how broad social media has become, it cannot be one person covering all, let alone like one social media strategist for a brand, and their role spans creative, scheduling, copywriting. That is too broad,
Yeah.
especially with how many channels you need to be on and be relevant on as a brand. You do need to really split up what work is being done by what person to fuel which channels.
Yeah, no, I think it makes a ton of sense. Would love to as well. So, as you're growing Kick House, right, and as you've worked with brands at SizzleSociety that are growing, how do you see your strategy changing over time? Obviously, dollars are flowing in, right? But where do you say, like, oh, we're at 50 locations now, we need to do this? Or, hey, now we
Mm,
need to establish more we need to put a manifesto out at this stage. What kind of evolves over time, and maybe what stays
yeah.
true that never changes from the beginning?
Yeah, it's different for every single brand. I would say the table stakes are going into your brand with brand values, mission statement, logo, and I would add tagline into
Yeah,
that. I know a lot of brands skip the tagline, but if your logo is your outfit and how you're dressed, your tagline is like the handshake moment where you have eye to eye 5 seconds to explain to someone who you are and what you're about in a way that complements the information that they already have externally, what the logo looks like. And so I would never skip that handshake opportunity. In terms of a manifesto and timing of the manifesto, I think a manifesto is super powerful in a circle the wagons kind of moment. And
mm-hmm.
so if a brand has grown too fast, let's say a brand has scaled way too fast, and what they've lost is the cohesion of the brand because too many people are doing too many things in too many different directions. A manifesto can be that circle the wagons kind of language, like, hey, as a reminder,
This is
here's
it.
who we are, here's
Yeah,
how we do things. So to add to the handshake, we're also going to podcast. We're also going to have an hour-long conversation about us and like about our brand, and it's just going to be more detail about who we are and what we do. So I think for brands, if they're at that circle the wagons moment, that's a good time to put something like that together or put a sizzle reel together. Like video can sometimes tell that story also. It is just every brand's a little bit different about like what's needed in what timing. And some brands hit certain timelines and realize they had all of the above wrong. And so then you hit refresh moments. And we work with a lot of clients that are in those refresh moments where you get to 5 locations open, you get to 10 locations open, and you realize you have that look in the mirror moment. Our brand is not strong enough to build to
This isn't
200.
going to go to
We
20 or 100. Yeah.
Right, it's not going to get there. Or we know we're going to get there operationally, but how much faster will we get there if marketing is tighter and brand can be tighter and lead the way? So the
Yeah.
best franchises have a brand that's stronger than the operation. Brand pulls the operation through the initial 20 locations, through the initial 30 locations. And I would say we had both at Kick House.
Hmm.
We had strong operations, but I think the simplicity of the brand and the strength of the brand put us into conversations that we wouldn't have otherwise been in if we were simply a 30 location brand.
Yeah.
I think we got into bigger conversations, got more press because of the quality of the brand plus the number of locations.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. When you talk about that, where the brand needs to be pulling the operations. I think you probably get a lot of mixed reactions to that, right? Everybody's fighting for equivalent budget at a national stage. Like, what percentage of brands do you think are effectively doing that, right? Like, being led by a solid brand that their operations will get there and do the thing versus the opposite way around where they're pulling a brand behind.
Percent
Yeah.
probably have a brand that's strong enough and well executed enough that it's pulling the operation forward. In a franchising environment, especially, you want someone to look at your brand from the outside in, and the brand tells them that this is a good operation. The
Mm-hmm.
brand tells them that they should want to be a franchise owner of this concept.
Yeah.
It's brand first, paid off by solid operations. But
Yeah.
brand gives you air cover. You have time to figure out the operational side if you have a strong brand that gives you air cover around what you're building in the background.
Yeah. No, leading up to this, I listened to your podcast with Club Solutions magazine, and you
Mm.
talk about how you've got to move fast. You've got to get to the B plus. And it can be hard because you want to feel like, hey, we can only push for the A plus. How much of that do you think about as you're saying, hey, let's lead by this brand, and we're moving fast because we're small and agile, right? Like, do you have a moment where you're like, you feel 80-90% okay pushing this content or pushing this campaign forward, and that gets you there over time?
Absolutely, because you always have the ability to delete. You
Yeah,
always have the
that's
ability
really true.
to revise and repost.
Yeah.
So think of a blog post. You put something out there like, "Who is SizzleSociety?" and it's a blog post of who we are today. And 2 months from now, our business is totally different. We found a different niche client where we pivoted.
Yeah.
I'll just take it down and rewrite it. And so it is about speed. It is about quantity of things out in the universe. And if you look back and it feels cringy or if it feels unaligned with where you're trying to go, delete it and move forward. In fact, as we consult with brands who are at a refresh moment, step one of a refresh is let's delete things that don't make sense for us
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
If we look at this ourselves and we think it's cringy, why would anyone who's connecting with our brand think that it's relatable?
Yeah.
So you delete, you make room for what's new by removing what's old and what's no longer true to us, what's no longer authentic to our brand.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think I talk to a lot of people. One of the common things is the fear of putting stuff out there, right? Like, it's not good enough. I'm scared to be me. Maybe someone's going to judge it. They're going to have a negative opinion. I'm always just like, put it out there as fast as possible and then get the responses. And then ask yourself, to your point, a month later, like, do I still believe in this? Do I still feel that way? Is it still applicable to me? If you're, I've always figured if you're not embarrassed of something you've done early in the life of your job or your company, you messed up somewhere, right? Like, it wasn't, you waited too long.
Yeah. I post constantly, and I think I have 3 different things that are connected to my lack of fear around posting constantly. I have a 13-year-old who constantly tells me I'm cringy. I've worked with franchise owners for the last 20 years. I have been told my stuff sucks. I'm kind of past the point of caring that my stuff
Yeah.
sucks.
Hmm.
Secondly, watch me trying. Like,
Right.
watch me practice. I am practicing in your face. I'm showing you what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
This is how you do it. So I'm big on like, show the steps. I'm showing you the steps. I'm admitting I'm not there, but I'm showing you that I'm trying. Thirdly, I'm a woman in business. I need to show up.
Absolutely.
There's so much of a need for women executives to have louder voices, despite the imposter syndrome, despite the feeling of being cringy, despite the fact that I don't feel like I'm accomplished yet. My
Yeah.
son just told me today on a call. I had him on a call with some of my team members, and one of them said they want him to do a video for me, like a sizzle reel. And he said, I'll do that when she accomplishes something.
Jeez.
Like it,
You've got
but
just the best motivator living with you every day. It's just like, do better, be more.
do better. Yeah, absolutely do better. But I think as women in business, we collectively need to do better. We need to be louder. I just started my podcast. We need to say more, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not 100% correct. It's just where I am right now. And so how could it be incorrect? Like, I'm just sharing my current truth,
Right.
and I know it's not perfect. I'm leading with the fact that it's not perfect, but I'm leading with the fact that I'm out here trying,
Yeah.
and I was trying when I was younger, and I didn't have people to follow. I didn't have examples of how to navigate a business setting, especially a male dominated business setting. I didn't have a female role model to do that. And that's why I show up as such, like, I bring like dude energy to business, because I was raised by dudes in business.
Yeah.
So I want to show like representation matters. And I want to show, here's how you can be an effective woman in business. Here's how you can have a team that collaborates. Here's how you can have a egoless approach to franchising that helps you grow faster than you thought you could,
Yeah.
because you collaborate with your franchise owners. All of those things are things that I have gotten to because I felt more and more and more comfortable putting myself out there and just being true to who I am and what I believe in.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, it's authenticity, right? It's what matters. And being authentic doesn't mean you're right or wrong. It just means you're there right then. And yeah, if you're not wrong, you're not learning, right? And I'm just the pursuit of knowledge is I think one of my core values in life. And it's so cool seeing people like yourself like really execute on that from like a personal mission style throughout a career, and you see the results of it, right? Like you've done maybe not to your son, but to me, you've done some really cool things, that are like really big and impressive. So I'll throw some kudos your way
Yeah.
there. Um,
Yeah, but keep watching, because I'm going to keep growing.
yeah,
And one of the most common things I comment on people's posts on LinkedIn is meet you at the top.
love that.
And I'll say the same to you, because I know you're taking that approach. You are pushing to get better. You want to connect to the right people. You want to trailblaze into spaces that like need different solutions. And so great, like, I'm cheering for you. Meet you at the top. It's not competitive. It's
Yeah,
you're going to win. I'm also going to win, cuz I'm going to put in the effort. And I
yeah,
know you are too. And not everybody's wired that way. I think
yeah,
there's a lot of conversation around entrepreneurship, and there's a lot of conversation around hustle culture,
yeah,
and I think it's important to find your people, and find those who you can build with as collaborators. And there are a lot of people who say they want the end result, but I'm not going to tell you what my end result is. I have no idea. But I'll
yeah,
tell you, every single day, I'm going to get better. Every
yeah,
single day, I'm going to connect with like minded people. Every single day, I'm going to put something out into the universe, get some feedback on it, and then build the next day
yeah,
different.
yeah.
So it's such a fun game, but it also really causes you those moments of
Oh yeah,
reflecting in the mirror and saying, who am I? And then
yeah,
who do I want to stand next to?
yeah.
And it's not everybody.
No, I've always been such a firm believer in the idea of you are the five people you surround yourself with closest. They're the people
Yeah.
who define how you act, how you respond. all that stuff. I mean, my wife, she's a clinical psychologist. The person I was before her to the person I am today is just an entirely different, to your point, dude culture versus not dude culture, right? And it's so cool just finding people like that to work with, because the journey's hard, but the journey is the only thing you have. Like, the end results may come, but they're also
Yeah.
ill defined. They're not real until they are. Like, you have to love that day to day. Like, absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
the power is in the process.
yeah.
The journey is the destination.
Absolutely. No, I love that ideology. Maybe jumping into just a couple questions around, like, forward coming technology. Obviously, I care a lot about that, building Flamel. Like,
Yeah.
as a marketer for the last, couple decades, like, you have used all of the tools, right? And generative AI hits the scene last year. What does that look like to you? Like, where do you see real opportunity versus where are we still in hype cycle? Because we're definitely squarely in hype cycle, but real value will sink out of it. Where do you see that playing out?
Well, to tie back into authenticity, I think you can get good outputs from things like ChatGPT or image generators. But you as a brand keeper, you as a marketer, you need to make sure that you're not using or leaning on ChatGPT to be your authenticity,
Right.
because it is good. It's not great. So it is a starting place. It is the first draft, but you still need to be the authenticity that's layered into or edited onto ChatGPT. So as I write things, I will sometimes use ChatGPT as a starting place. I'll use it as a almost a brainstorm board, like give me
Right.
more ideas, give me
Yeah.
something to react to so you're not in that vacuum with no feedback. ChatGPT can be your feedback. It
Yep.
can be part of your brainstorm process, but it's not at a place where it's good enough to be a final draft. So I believe in using AI so much on the marketing side, because you can cover more ground
Yeah.
using AI as not a crutch to what you're doing, but a complement to what you're doing, and it can scale your efforts faster across more platforms. Where I get concerned about AI is where it's leaned on as an only crutch or as a final draft,
Yep.
and where it's leaned on to make operational decisions that can be more detrimental to your brand if it
Interesting.
is done incorrectly. So, to talk through that example, like if ChatGPT generates a poor blog post and we post it without a refining set of eyes on it, really, at the end of the day, no harm, no foul. If we've done the rest of our work well,
Right.
one bad thing is not going to ruin your whole community. On
Yeah.
the operational side, it has more opportunity for things to go wrong if it is not managed by a human. It's a
Yeah.
tool that needs to be managed by a human. It's not a tool that can just be a standalone tool for your business.
Yeah. I think it's ironically building an AI company. I fully agree with you, and it's the authenticity. So, like, I always talk about, we're not an AI content company, we're an AI workflow company. I want to help you run your workflows faster. At the end of the day, I think the fact that the world's going to get drowned with like a bunch of computer generated content, we're going to circle back to the beginning days of social, where it was more authentic, because I've been to a local kick house, right, and it's got a vibe. It's got people there that I see every time I go there. There's certain things that I think you just can't reproduce, and honestly, my hope for the world is that we circle back to that and we really start rewarding the brands that use real media, and use real video and the customers and the team, because I think that's what speaks the most. Curious how you think through that, like the difference between the output being generated versus maybe the workflows that got you to that.
Yeah, I think this is the end all be all question, for brands that are building. And I think it has to have authenticity. Like your brand has to have authenticity. And I do believe you can create authentic outputs via AI. I believe you can create even better authentic outputs with AI plus a human managing it. And then the distribution of that content becomes so much easier and faster across
Yeah.
multiple platforms, or versioning. When my career started, your versioning in Photoshop. You're
Yeah.
literally building file by file by file what's going to go out. And now you version by clicking a button.
Yeah.
We're recording this on Riverside. Riverside is going to
I'm like,
churn you out one
yeah.
click of a button. Here's your show notes. Here's
Yeah.
micro clips of, Jessica being cringy. Here's, some still images that can go out online. It's going to do all of that really
Yeah.
fast and really simply for you. So I think there's speed and volume that's added to all marketing via these AI tools that are now coming out everywhere.
Yeah. I always love to ask. You have a magic wand. What part of your day-to-day workflows do you wish AI would solve right now?
Definitely the distribution.
Yeah.
I would say the editing and the distribution. I think, especially through my process of podcasting, I love having conversations with people. I love building brands. I love refreshing brands.
Hmm.
And then what?
Yeah.
Now we need a complete logo package.
Yeah.
Great. I'm not going to be that person.
Yeah.
Amazing podcast episode. Let's now post it on YouTube. Let's post it to Poditize. It's there's so many different things that you could do once you have the content. It's almost endless with the things that you can do. And so I almost have anxiety by not using all of the content that I have
Yeah.
to post across all of the platforms, because I feel like I'm putting in the effort to have the conversations and I'm not.
Yeah.
And that's for my own personal brand. So then
Right.
imagine, as I'm thinking about my clients' brands, I'm like, we're not maxing it out. There's
Yeah.
so many different things that you can do. And to go back to like a marketer's default is like to reinvent the wheel, something new, something new. Sit in what you already have
Execute on what you
and
have.
version it, distribute it differently, edit it differently. You don't need to rebuild. You need to post. You need to
Yeah.
redistribute. It's the same stuff. It's just posted slightly differently. And
Yeah.
I'm a big follower and believer in Gary Vee and everything that he does. His team is 32 people to do what he does. And so, as an entrepreneur who loves him, I'm like, I need to do more. I need to post more. I need to edit and distribute and cut more. And so I'm all about finding tools, because I'm a team of one. I don't have a
Right.
32 person team. I post my own stuff, I write my own stuff. And so if there's tools that help my 1 hour a day of effort on my personal brand, if I
Sure.
can extend that 1 hour of a day across more posts, across more platforms, that's such a huge win.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. I absolutely agree. My mind is love to talk about this afterwards. I've got a couple ideas for you. You cool if we jump into? I've got like two, three rapid fire questions. Think 15-second answers tops.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the current social media trend that everyone should be doing right now?
Leveraging the Tortured Poets Society audios.
Yeah, that's a fair one. Anything Taylor Swift touches wins. That's pretty much the answer, right? I was
Well,
weirdly. Go ahead.
but anything that's like that in a cultural moment,
Yeah,
as a brand, you can take that and make it your own. And so
yeah,
whether it's the audios, whether it's the black and white, or the black and white or gray, brands can be there and can insert themselves into the conversation,
yep,
and it can come across just authentic, and as a your brand comes across as a Swifty and not as a inauthentic, like, oh, we're just jumping
yeah,
on the hype. It more comes across as supportive, like, we're here with you in this release, we're going to boost your audios, we're going to do the things, we're cheering for you from afar.
yeah,
And so anytime it's authentic for your brand to jump into conversations that are already organically happening, that's so much easier than
yeah.
creating a
You have to
conversation
create
from.
anything.
Yeah, it's so much easier than building that conversation from scratch. And you said 15-second answers, and I just gave you like a minute long
I still
answer.
think that
So
was
there you go.
funny. We already blew the time limit, so we were working with an airline client a couple months ago, and so I was tracking all the all the airports, excuse me, in the U.S. Tampa and Denver both made a lot of posts around the Taylor Swift tour. They were the
Hmm.
top performing airports in the U.S. on social for like a month and a half because of it.
Yeah, the effort required to build a trend is infinitely higher than the
To
effort
ride
needed
the
to
wave.
jump on. Jump onto a current trend, ride the wave, as long as it's appropriate for your brand to do so.
Yeah. Okay, going to our next one. Quicker this time. Which brand right now is absolutely killing it at marketing that you're jealous of? You wish you could do more like they do?
I'm going to give you fitness examples. Metabolic is doing great with their brand and building with consistency. Same with Body Bar, Pilates,
Mm-hmm.
young brand, building with consistency. And then Amped Fitness is a young brand building with edge and
Building.
pushing their own brand into places that it hasn't gone yet. And it's almost like they're experimenting to figure out like where their brand is going to best live with an edge to what they're doing.
I love that. And then final one. You've got the power to tell every marketer to stop doing one thing. What should they stop doing?
This is a hard one. Stop building for impressions and start building for results.
Interesting. Interesting. What drives that thought?
Results first, brand always, especially in a
That's
franchising environment. So if you can put results on the board as a marketer, all of a sudden your franchisees are going to have a lot more grace for you as a marketer, where you might do something creative that they don't necessarily agree with. They'll
yeah,
just sit it out and they won't dump on it. They'll just sit it out and they'll be like, okay, she's going to get back to something, sensical here in a moment. Like at Club Pilates, I did an April Fool's kind of promotion, and some owners were all about it. They loved it. Some owners emailed me and said, why would you do this? This is like
yeah,
detrimental to the brand. And so I definitely got that feedback loop of positive and negative feedback about all the things that I did. But one thing they would never give me negative feedback on is putting results on the board.
yeah,
So as a franchise marketer, results on the board is the thing that will give you immediate credibility with your franchise owners, and it will give you an immediate foundation to build from.
yeah. No, I love that. I mean, results first, brand always is that is t-shirtable. I love that. No, this has been a fantastic conversation. So on my end, Jessica, thanks so much for taking the time. Would love to give you your 30 seconds, pitch what you're working on, say what you want to say. Give us what you want the world to hear.
We are in year number 1 of building SizzleSociety, which is a marketing agency that's really built specifically to answer a lot of these common
Yeah,
questions that young brands have in their marketing. So brands that might not have a fully built out marketing department, we're able to step in and support. Brands that are hitting that refresh needed phase, we're able to jump in and support. We largely work with clients in the fitness space, but we are open to other industries. But we love the franchising world. That's like
yeah,
the agency sweet spot.
yeah. No, that's fantastic. You heard it here, everybody. Check out Sizzle Society. Is it sizzlesociety.com? Is that what's the URL?
Yes, we have the .com. Per my son's
Not
advice,
an
we
IO.
have the .com, SizzleSociety.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Jessica. Thoroughly appreciate it. This is super fun. I learned a ton. So, if anything else, I won something here today. But thank you again for your time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
For sure. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Behind the Franchise. We look forward to having you listen to some future ones. We have exciting guests like Hannah Vanderwall from D1 Training and Kyle Costco from Caring Transitions coming on. So make sure to subscribe and follow along, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Have a great one.